Hello from my hotel room in Cincinnati. It's 1:20 a.m. Eastern Time. I know that means it's only 10:20 p.m. Pacific Time, so hopefully we can have a nice little Sunday night discussion here about the 49ers. What a game. These are the ones where I'm a huge fan of Gladiator, Russell Crowe, right? That movie's 21 years old already, which is crazy. It came out in 2000. You know, when he's in that flea infested village, destroying everybody, and then Maximus throws the sword into the crowd. Are you not entertained? Is that not why you're here? You know, that's you see a game like that, and how can you not be entertained? I mean, it was ugly. The 49ers procrastinated. They should have had this one won much sooner, but at the end of the day, the Bengals probably are kicking themselves right now for having a special teams meltdown as bad as the 49ers one had been in Seattle the week prior. So all this ugliness back and forth over 60 minutes turned into this epic finish, really a game within a game, a second game during overtime where the 49ers got it done. So if you're not entertained by that, you don't like football. And I'll tell you what, I said this to Tim Ryan, 49ers radio broadcaster, after the game. We're walking back up to the press box, and Tim was headed off to the team bus. And my main overarching big picture takeaway after something like this is, if you're covering a team or if you're a fan of a team that's in contention in December in the National Football League, you're bound to have some fun with it. There's going to be drama involved, especially in this league when it seems that teams who are in contention are fighting these crazy, unpredictable games on a week-in to week-out basis. And the 49ers have lost a lot of these already this season. You think about the Green Bay game back in week 3. You think about the 2 Seattle games where special teams cost the 49ers wins. This was a point of discussion that we had all week heading into this game against Cincinnati, because we knew that 2 playoff contenders would be squaring off. We predicted that it'd be a close game, and it didn't disappoint. So the 49ers had been involved in all these close games that are befitting of the position that they're in as a flawed yet talented team in playoff contention. And now they finally won one. They finally won one of these wild, crazy roller coaster affairs. And they did so on the road, and they did it by a score of 26-23 against the Cincinnati Bengals. So I have the game book right here. We're going to be going through some stuff. I'm going to be answering questions. This is the original immediate aftermath of a wild win. So as the week progresses, we're going to get a lot more organized with our stuff, but I have some talking points that I want to get through, and I wanted to get to you tonight. It's tough when I'm out on the East Coast. The game ends late. It was an overtime game. I had to write my entire article, which you see up there. That's on The Athletic right now. Then I had to do the whole podcast, and now it's 1:20 a.m. But I love my YouTube subscribers so much that live at the Hyatt Regency at 1:20 a.m. So make sure to hit the subscribe button. You know, it's not that bad. I'm on West Coast time. You know, I'm flying back to the Bay Area tomorrow. Not like I'm that excited to fly back to the Bay Area with an atmospheric river happening right now. And it's completely sunny in Cincinnati, but I don't fly back till 7 p.m. So that's good. I'll get to work out of some coffee shops here in town. We're going to go through this one point at a time. And I think that there are 4 main points that I want to hit, and then we'll probably branch off into greater discussion. First one, your narrative about Jimmy Garoppolo, whatever it might be, because I know there's a lot of them, is likely wrong. Jimmy Garoppolo might be the most confusing and difficult player to assess and cover, not only because there is some inconsistency with his play, but because of just how polarizing he's become in a way that's unfair to judge his efficiency or his level of play whatsoever. There's so many things have come out about Jimmy Garoppolo, and these are all narratives. These are all preconceived notions that people treat as fact when they're not really rooted in any bit of fact. So many of these fly around Twitter, maybe because people think they sound smart about football when they toss them out. But with how prevalent these narratives are, you would think that some of them would at least kind of stick. But what we saw in a game like today is that none of it ends up sticking. Okay, the 49ers threw the ball 41 times and they only ran 23 times. So much for they're completely screwed if Jimmy Garoppolo has to throw more than they pass. And I mean, this is already something that people who knew the sport, who knew how the 49ers have played, knew wasn't true. In 2017, Garoppolo averaged 35 throws a game and the 49ers went 5-0. It's not a simple equation. Lost you guys. Yeah, okay, I'm back here. It's absolutely not that simple. This is a situation where the 49ers have to play a game and execute an offensive game plan that is dictated by what the defense is doing. And today, the defense, because the 49ers weren't at full strength running the football, they didn't have Elijah Mitchell, dictated that the 49ers had to pass a lot. And the 49ers passed on 6 of 7 plays on the final drive in overtime. So another one of these narratives is, Shanahan's never going to trust Jimmy Garoppolo when the game is on the line to throw. Well, they had plenty of opportunity to run on that final drive. But as I've been trying to tell you, the decision between run and pass is not one of trusting the quarterback or not trusting the quarterback. The decision between run and pass is dictated by what the defense of the 49ers. That's how Kyle Shanahan's system works. He wouldn't be retaining Garoppolo at $27 million this year if he didn't trust Garoppolo to throw the ball when the defense dictates that you should throw the ball. Hence, 6 passes out of 7 plays on that final drive for Jimmy Garoppolo. Hence, 41 passes today for Jimmy Garoppolo against only 23 runs for the 49ers. The pass was an integral part of the game plan today, especially as this game progressed, and Jimmy Garoppolo did an excellent job with it. Now, was he perfect? No. Was Joe Burrow perfect? No. Joe Burrow got away with 2 interceptions in the first half. Jimmy Garoppolo got away with what might have been a pick 6 near the end of regulation, but it was dropped. He lived to fight another day. And one thing about Jimmy today, he took 4 sacks. There was nothing wrong with him taking those 4 sacks. He didn't force the issue downfield right into a linebacker's arms when he was pressured. He took the negative play and didn't make it worse. He ran a generally efficient show offensively for, I would say, 3+ quarters. Then it really went into the gutter, and the 49ers couldn't hold the lead at the end of the fourth quarter. But then at the end of regulation and into overtime, Jimmy Garoppolo absolutely showed up. And absolutely, I mean, he was lights out through overtime, 6 of 6. Let's go through the plays in overtime, right? I have them in the article right here. We can go through all of them and see how they dispel a lot of these preconceived narratives. I listed them down here. There's an 8-yard completion over the middle to George Kittle. Okay, that was what Garoppolo is known to do, right? He attacks the middle of the field. That's where the 49ers weapons get their yards after the catch. So nothing crazy there. But then after George Kittle commits a false start penalty, Jimmy Garoppolo says to those of you who's claim that he can't throw outside the numbers, he says to hell with that. And he goes back shoulder outside the numbers, 25 yards downfield on a perfect throw to Juwan Jennings. And this is after, I'm not even talking about right now, but I'll add this in here. This is after the drive at the end of regulation where Jimmy Garoppolo on 3rd down went outside the numbers, deep out to George Kittle, the one where Kittle made a fantastic catch, but Garoppolo put the ball so it got over the defensive back's head. That had to be high. If that one is a little bit lower, everybody's screaming at him for risking an interception or throwing an interception on the deep out. So 2 narrative situations with Jimmy Garoppolo. He can't throw outside the numbers. He can't go deep on critical downs or any passing downs, both dispelled by the fact that he did, in fact, do that in crunch time to both George Kittle and Juwan Jennings. Then right after that throw to Juwan Jennings, 21-yard completion right over the middle to beat to beat a Cincinnati blitz to George Kittle. That was an extremely important play because the Bengals were bringing that blitz off of the edge. The resulting gap over the middle of the field had to be hit right away to keep the momentum of that drive going. Garoppolo hit it. 3-yard completion to JaMycal Hasty. That wasn't the most productive play, but it did keep the line moving. And then this was a Garoppolo special. 9-yard completion to Kittle through the tightest of windows to complete, a 3rd and 5. and that set up the walk-off 12-yard touchdown to Brandon Ayuk, which was a special play, thanks in large part to the fact that George Kittle had 13 catches for 151 yards. So we can watch this one right here. I'll make this a little bit bigger. This is the respect that a performance that big from George Kittle garnered the 49ers offense. George is right there. I'm going to pause this one after a couple steps. Look at least two Cincinnati defenders right here, 24 and the linebacker right here in the middle of the field, both committing to the motion on the pass route from George Kittle. They commit at least a step. We can agree that George Kittle earns the respect of at least a step moving toward the middle of the field. I mean, the guy had 13 catches for 151 yards. So he was dominating the game. The Cincinnati defense respected him. Well, because they step in, these defenders are sucked into the middle. Look at Brandon Ayuk. He has at least an extra step of daylight, and he takes that extra step of daylight to pay dirt. You could see he's still in bounds. You could see that's going to be a touchdown. The reason I bring this up is because when the 49ers offense fires on all cylinders, they're utilizing all of their available talent. On that final drive, Jimmy Garoppolo went 6 of 6 to 4 different targets, right? He hit Jawan Jennings. He hit JaMychal Hasty. He hit George Kittle. And obviously, he hit Brandon Ayuk. Throughout the course of the game, Jimmy Garoppolo completed at least 3 passes to 4 different targets. So it wasn't just that last drive. 3 catches for at least 3 catches for at least 4 different 49ers. And that's what this 49ers offense is going to need moving forward, because this is the NFL. It is by definition a passing league. The 49ers do want to run at volume, and that formula will work a lot of the time, but it won't work all the time. And when you get into crunch time in an NFL season, you need something, and you need the adaptability to be able to win games on the fly on a week-to-week basis, because crunch time means that one loss spells doom for your season. That's what the playoffs are about. You can't just have a big-time run-first formula, run into the divisional round of the playoffs, have that run game get shut down, and then have to, go home with your tail in between your legs because you weren't able to throw the football. Well, today showed us that the 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo have potential adaptability. 41 throws, 23 runs. They won in a different fashion than the stereotype would lead you to believe is possible. People say that this has to be a run-first team. That's not the case. They want to be a run-first team. They want to be a team that runs at volume and passes at efficiency. But they also want to be a team that capitalizes on what the defense gives them. And the fronts that the Cincinnati Bengals were giving the 49ers today, combined with the personnel losses that the 49ers were suffering on the offensive end, Elijah Mitchell being the biggest one, dictated that the 49ers would have to throw to win this game, especially given game situation later on. And Jimmy Garoppolo came through throwing outside the numbers, throwing downfield, throwing, with his typical quick release over the middle. He was doing it all also behind pass protection that wasn't great. Tom Compton is still your right tackle if you're the 49ers. I mean, he did a great job blocking for Deebo Samuel on that touchdown earlier in the game, but we know this from prior history, especially from the game against Seattle. Tom Compton is not an all-pro right tackle. Jimmy Garoppolo's quick release is going to have to get stuff done for the 49ers, and it did today in some big spots. Now, the loss of Trey Hendrickson for the Cincinnati Bengals was huge. He was their best pass rusher. He hurt his back, about halfway through this game. I don't know if the 49ers win that game if Trey Hendrickson plays the entirety of it, because he was beating Trent Williams early, and Hendrickson always lines up against left tackle. The 49ers, one strong side of the offensive line and all facets of the game is left tackle. So if they lose at left tackle, and they were a little bit early in this game, it's going to be a long day. But when Trey Hendrickson went out, the 49ers, I thought, were able to neutralize Cincinnati's pass rush to at least a degree in order to be able to execute and win a run-heavy game plan. So Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not saying anybody's right about Jimmy Garoppolo, but I'm saying most people are wrong. Just because you try to put him in this basket, but the only basket that he really probably fits in is that there's some inconsistency to his play. But he's capable of making the throws that people say that he's not capable of making. He's capable of delivering the drives that people say that he's not capable of making. The question is, how consistently can he do that? And I think that may have been what has failed the 49ers a couple times this year. Not every time. Some losses are more attributable to special teams, some to defense. I personally thought entering this game that the 49ers would be 8-4 with a decent special teams unit without those 2 losses to Seattle. Alas, that didn't happen. But the overarching point is that Jimmy Garoppolo has pieced together a skill set that doesn't really match what a lot of people accuse him of not possessing from a skill set perspective. And today, everything came together in overtime and in the fourth quarter. If the 49ers can get that consistently moving forward, which I think is the question with Jimmy Garoppolo, especially behind suspect pass protection, well, they're absolutely contenders. And that's why they continue to start this guy, even with Trey Lance on the team, because they're contenders this year, and Garoppolo can deliver performances in crunch time against the blitz like he did today. I mean, he had Juwan Jennings, I believe it was, to start that fourth quarter drive that ended up in the missed Robbie Gould field goal while just getting drilled by a free rusher on the near side. And, I mean, that's a plus throw. It's a plus play. Most quarterbacks can't get drilled by a free rusher and still get the ball off to Juwan Jennings in that situation. But Garoppolo did, and he deserves the credit for that. And he did in this game. So while your narrative about Jimmy Garoppolo is likely wrong, I'm just not sure who's right about Jimmy Garoppolo at this point. And I think it's going to be fascinating the rest of the way, because he's obviously a plus efficiency quarterback. 6 of his past 7 games have been good for the 49ers, with the one exception being the game against Seattle. And the 49ers have won 5 of those 7 games. So in the larger picture, as maddening as some of those details of inconsistency can be, we have to realize that inconsistency amongst quarterbacks is a truth around the whole National Football League. And that Jimmy Garoppolo is not singular, is not unique in that. And that if he continues delivering consistently plus efficiency, without that one game blip where he threw those 2 picks against Seattle, the 49ers can go a long way this season. So it's a complex matter. But if you want to judge Jimmy Garoppolo fairly, and if you haven't been judging him fairly, you were surprised by what he did today. But if you have been judging him fairly, you knew that he was capable of that. But you also knew that the 49ers just haven't pieced everything together the way that they did in overtime today. And that was, I think, that was one of the overarching pieces of optimism for this team moving forward, the way that they handled overtime, because this is the next topic. With limited bullets, DeMeco Ryans had his defense do just enough. And this really stretched over the course of the whole game. We knew that the Bengals were going to rack up yardage. This was an explosive offense, but it was a boom or bust type unit under Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor and Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon. I mean, the Bengals have dudes. They have dudes. They're able to move the football. They're able to score points, but they also hadn't been overly efficient this season because of the mistakes they had made. Burrow led the league in interceptions. The Bengals had surrendered 36 sacks entering this game, which was the 3rd most in football. So we knew the 49ers with Ambry Thomas, a rookie starting at cornerback, but without Emmanuel Mosley, obviously there's no Jason Verrett anymore. They're shorthanded on the back end. They're shorthanded up front without Dee Ford, no Javon Kinlaw. We knew that this defense was going to give up yards. What we weren't sure of was how effectively this defense would bend but not break. And I thought through 75% of regulation, the 49ers defense was fantastic in that regard. Then they ran out of gas, and I blame the offense at the end of regulation. The offense just needed to salt the game away, because we know the reality. This is not the 2019 defense. It's the offense's job to hold on to the ball, shield defense. Garoppolo and his unit didn't do that late in the fourth quarter. So the defense got tired, and the defense started to get exposed. What does DeMeco Ryans have to do when the defense gets exposed? Because that pass rush is not as strong as it was a couple of years ago. Well, he has to fire those blitz bullets. And you can't fire too many blitz bullets, because any competent offense is going to figure it out and they're going to burn you. And I thought the Bengals started to burn the 49ers in overtime. But the one blitz bullet that really intrigued me the most was when the 49ers brought K'Wan Williams. And K'Wan, he's so good at blitzing. You saw him try to bring Jimmy Ward. You saw him try to bring Fred Warner. That never had the same effectiveness as when the 49ers brought K'Wan Williams. And they brought him on a 3rd down with 5.5 minutes to play, and it snuffed out a Cincinnati drive. And I said, I wonder how many more of those bullets DeMeco Ryans has left. And the answer was he had at least one more left after that, because the Bengals, because of the 49ers offensive ineptitude late in the regulation, they still tied the game. So we go into overtime and the Bengals move the ball 59 yards in 5 plays. It's 3rd and 3 from the 49ers 19-yard line. If Cincinnati scores a touchdown, the game is over. The 49ers defense is hanging by a thread. They cannot maintain the status quo. If you just rush 4, if you rush Jimmy Ward, if you rush Fred Warner, the Bengals are going to score. So they had to go back to the well that had worked in regulation. But my question was, had they already burned that bullet? Was Cincinnati going to be ready to expose the 49ers in that situation? Well, we found out. DeMeco Ryans brought K'Wan Williams again. The tight end had to pick up K'Wan Williams on that 3rd and 3. Because the tight end had to pick him up, and I'll show you guys on the video right now, because that had to happen, the 49ers got Nick Bosa into a one-on-one. And it was subtle, but it was game-changing. Here we go. Here it is, 3rd and 3. So this is a 3rd and manageable for Joe Burrow. Notice Nick Bosa right here, and notice K'Wan Williams coming on the blitz. The Bengals want to double team Nick Bosa with their tight end. K'Wan Williams coming, even though they're ready, even they pick up K'Wan Williams. They didn't pick him up the time before. It was a 14-yard loss in the 4th quarter. They pick him up this time, but because of that, the tight end can't help with Bosa, and we all know what happens when Bosa is able to go one-on-one against the backup right tackle. Throws him away, get off of me, chases down Joe Burrow, saves the game. You have to give Nick Bosa credit. He's one of the best defensive players in football. Nick now has 14 sacks on the season coming off an ACL tear. That's awesome. I'll make a separate video again on Nick Bosa if I have to, and I will over the course of this week. But you have to give credit to DeMeco Ryans for showing up and improving over the course of this rookie 2021 season as a defensive coordinator. It was a risk to send K'Wan Williams, but he had to send him. He went down fighting, and he didn't go down. He said, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down fighting. And the 49ers didn't go down. And that fight, the fact that DeMeco Ryans was able to step up and say, okay, I've already used this blitz with K'Wan Williams, but I'm going to go forward again, and I'm going to use it to free up Nick Bosa. He let his best player win a one-on-one. He let his best player determine the course of this game, and Nick Bosa sacked the guy, Joe Burrow, who's playing video games with his former Ohio State teammate earlier this week. That was a huge moment in this game. The 49ers defense did just enough, and you can credit DeMeco Ryans for shielding the fact that his secondary was in such bad shape against Jamar Chase and company. Ambry Thomas played like the rookie that we thought that he was. 2 illegal hands to the face penalties. The Bengals really picked on Ambry later in the game when Jamar Chase scored that deep 32-yard touchdown to tie things up. Josh Norman on the other end, he's the opposite of Ambry Thomas, right? In a bad way. Ambry's this young rookie who really hasn't played football in a year, who, is thrust into the bright lights into this big moment, while Josh Norman is going to be 34 years old, and he's on the tail end of his career, and he's a step too slow. Both cornerbacks for the 49ers were very exposable. But DeMeco Ryans, as is the job of any good coach, was able to accentuate his unit's strengths and minimize their weaknesses. And that meant allowing yards. You were never going to stop the Bengals from just gaining yards, but you had to win when it really mattered. And I thought for 3 quarters, the 49ers defense won when it mattered. There was a play where Ebukam and Nick Bosa just crashed the edges, and they get in there for a sack. I think they gave that one to Samson Ebukam, which is huge because the 49ers need production on top of Nick Bosa. Another play early in the game, 49ers are vulnerable. Charles Omenihu is the edge rusher on the left side, and Bosa's out of the game. So I feel that this is a play where Cincinnati was in position to lay the hurt on the 49ers. Anytime Nick Bosa's on the sideline getting a breather, 49ers are vulnerable. But Charles Omenihu delivers. He recognizes that Burrow's going to roll out, did his film study over the course of the week, gets in Burrow's face. The rollout doesn't trick the 49ers. Omenihu holds the edge, bats the pass down, sets the 49ers up for a third down stop. These are the types of small victories that are huge because they come at the exact right time. It's about working smarter and not harder. It's like the SAT. I'm sure a lot of you took the SAT going to the college. You probably learn how to manage your time, right? You probably learn which questions to attack, which questions to lay off of a little bit. Well, the 49ers defense is not going to be able to just flood teams with overpowering pass rush down after down like they did throughout so much of 2019. They have to pick their spots. They have to win at those key battles. And for the most part, they did. Now, the dam did rupture toward the end of regulation, but look what happened in overtime. They found a key spot at which to win. That was the tape that I just showed you of K'Wan Williams blitzing and Nick Bosa delivering the sack. Finally, special teams. The 49ers lost nearly 11 points, 10.8 expected points on special teams against the Seahawks, which is almost unheard of. The only other time we'd heard about that from the 49ers was when they lost like 14 expected points the first time against the Seahawks. So normally, 49ers special teams hold serve, but when they play the Seahawks, they completely suck, and they lose like 2 touchdowns worth of points, right? That was so staggering this past week that I wrote an entire article about it. I was making YouTube videos about it. I was screaming, the 49ers lost 11 points due to special teams. That's a lot of points to lose in a game that you dropped by 7. Well, today, the 49ers gained, and as an inverse, the Bengals lost 10.7 points on special teams. You cannot make this stuff up. The week after just a pathetic special teams performance cost the 49ers the game in Seattle, the Bengals muffed all these punts and these kicks and missed a field goal to deliver a special teams performance that was the literal inverse of what the 49ers had lost in Seattle the week before. And we could talk about the ugliness of regulation and how the 49ers should have put the Bengals away earlier and how Robbie Gould should have made the kick. That was also special teams, by the way, at the end of regulation. But are we even in a position where we're talking about the 49ers trying to seal a win if the Bengals don't give them all of this value on special teams by throwing up all over themselves earlier in the game? Probably not. I mean, the math tells us that the 49ers gained 11 points early in this game on special teams, completely changed the course of this game, which is why I see a lot of this regulation stuff as noise. At the end of the day, in the National Football League, when 2 capable teams play, and these were 2 capable teams playing, it's about who executes at crunch time. Because somehow, some way, it's always going to end up close toward the end in games like this. And somehow, some way, we got to that crunch time at the end. And that's why I wrote about what I did. Inside the 49ers' masterful overtime execution to beat the Bengals, a microcosm of what they'll need ahead. They needed the offense to deliver through the pass game. They needed Jimmy Garoppolo to show a lot of these false narratives to be wrong, that they can win in a game where he throws 41 times, and they did that. They needed the defense to be opportunistic when it actually, push came to shove, mattered, when a failure on the defensive end would have led to a win for the Bengals. Well, Nick Bosa came through thanks to his defensive coordinator, D'Amico Ryan, setting the table with that single team on the right side. And the special teams, well, the 49ers couldn't kick a touchback to save their lives against the Seattle Seahawks the week before. And recently their touchback rate had plummeted to the point where they were getting killed on kick returns. Maybe I'm giving the 49ers too much credit for kicking a touchback in overtime, but I don't think so. I don't think we could take that for granted after the Seattle game. And Mitch Wishnowsky kicked 3 touchbacks against Cincinnati. So we saw the formula. All 3 phases of the game delivered when it mattered most. And that's what made this game so exciting to watch. And that's what should give the 49ers so much excitement and hope moving forward, because they're 7-6. They're that 6 seed. They could get up to the 5 seed. If the Rams lose to the Cardinals, the 49ers are 1 game behind the 5 seed, and that's as high as they can realistically get. They're not catching Arizona for the NFC West title. That ship has sailed. But they can catch the Rams. They can get the 5 seed, and they could potentially play Dallas in the playoffs. And it's time to start talking about that positioning, because Atlanta's a beatable team next week. Tennessee's going to be tough on the road on a Thursday, traveling to Central Time. That's going to be really tough. But after that, the Texans are a beatable team. And then the 49ers have their own chance to take another bite out of the Rams in Week 18. So the path is there for the 49ers. Everything is under their control, especially if they deliver in crunch time, because that is what determines and separates the contenders from the pretenders in the NFL. So that's why this win is a huge deal, because the 49ers delivered at crunch time on the road against the team that's in the AFC playoff picture. That's a big deal. And the 49ers have now set themselves up. They've earned the inside track to what happens next. So I'll answer some questions after I put on my final point. What a game. That was a lot of fun to watch. Just appreciate it for what it is. The nitpicking can come later. It can come during this question and answer session. Even I nitpick some of the stuff here. End of the day, though, that was a hell of a game, and the 49ers delivered when it mattered to beat the Bengals 26-23. All right, it's 1:50 a.m. here on the East Coast. It's time for me to answer some questions. Please, questions, not just comments. Yeah, this is a comment, but I'll go for it. Garoppolo had 2 winning drives. He absolutely did. Now, he got away with an interception on that first one. I'm not going to lie. I tell you guys how it is. Garoppolo gets away with an interception, but he bounced back. Beautiful throw to Kittle. Beautiful, even better catch. Great throw, even better catch for George Kittle on 3rd and 11. Jimmy digs the 49ers out of a hole. Great throw to Ayuk on that drive. I thought the best play on that drive, though, might have been the first one. I mean, I'm not going to bring Trey Lance into this, but if a rookie or somebody less experienced or somebody with a slower release than Garoppolo's in there on that blitz, the free rusher blitz on the first play of that drive with the crowd revved up in Cincinnati, that's a turnover. That's a sack. That's a fumble. That's an interception. It's not good. And he got it away to Juwan Jennings to set up that drive. Let's just be fair to Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's give him credit when he does stuff that is what a plus quarterback can do. And he's been a plus quarterback for the 49ers over his entire time while he's been healthy. And especially here this season, over the last 7 games, 6 of those 7 have seen plus efficiency from Jimmy Garoppolo. And today it involved him leading 2 clutch drives at the end of regulation and then in overtime. Now, that near pick, it wasn't a pick. That near pick, that can't happen, right? But it did. You could also look at Joe Burrow and say, well, he shouldn't be throwing a pick to Jimmy Ward that got nullified by Ambry Thomas's hands to the face, and he probably shouldn't be throwing it right to Azeez Al-Shire. But Burrow got away with those as well. So that's football. At the end of the day, Jimmy Garoppolo had 0 interceptions in 41 attempts, and that's a hell of a good game. So he was excellent today, and credit where it's due. The chemistry between Jimmy Garoppolo and Brandon Ayuk is improving, and that's really important for this 49ers team because, I talk about the distribution. A balanced offense will be able to overcome the games in which the rushing attack is not excellent. And today the rushing attack was okay. 23 carries for 100 yards. Deebo Samuel had that big rush at the start to get the 49ers on the touchdown board, right? But you're going to have to pass a lot in some of these games in the passing league. And we saw early in the season it was a big problem for the 49ers because they were just so zeroed in on Brandon Ayuk time and time on Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk wasn't getting any passes back then. Time and time again, the offense was one-dimensional. The offense needs to not only be ambidextrous, it needs to use everything at its disposal. And the way that Garoppolo spread the ball around today when he completed passes to 4 different receivers on those 6 throws on that final drive, that's exactly what the 49ers need. And if the 49ers are going to attain that, then the chemistry with Brandon Ayuk is going to have to be there because you see Deebo Samuel in the backfield. And that's one of the most remarkable things about this 49ers team. Deebo Samuel had a 1,000-yard receiving season in the bag about halfway through this campaign, and now he's turned into a running back. This has never happened in NFL history. Literally a 1,000-yard receiving season, and now he has 3 catches over his last 3 games, and he ran a career high 8 times today. And he's doing a good job at that. I mean, Deebo Samuel had that huge opening touchdown for the 49ers. But when you're using and relying on Deebo Samuel to deliver at that running back position, because he hits those holes so well in the outside zone, then you're also relying on this is how the 49ers are going to have to win. The offense is going to have to lead the way, and it's going to have to be a balanced passing attack. And Garoppolo is going to have to orchestrate it, and he's going to have to orchestrate it in less than stellar conditions because they don't have Mike McGlinchey anymore at right tackle, and this line was shady and anchor down pass protection to begin with. So Garoppolo has to work under those parameters to lead this team forward. Today he did that. That's why they're at 7-6. That's why their playoff positioning is improving. Yes, I do read the comments. I had to go through all my talking points. But you guys aren't asking questions is the problem here. The more questions you answer, the more ask, the more I can answer. Otherwise, I'm just responding to comments. Yeah, like I'm going up and there's a lot of them, but I don't see any questions. Let me scroll down. What are the most recent ones? They actually put a question mark at the end of it, then it's going to stand out to me. I agree with this. I think that, I mean, some of the underneath passes and that Garoppolo has thrown for picks this year have been to disguise defenders, such as Bobby Wagner with Seattle today. It almost went to the safety. But again, there was only one pick-worthy throw from Garoppolo in 41 attempts today. And all quarterbacks are going to throw interceptions. So on the road in a throw-heavy game, especially in crunch time, in overtime, he didn't come close to throwing a pick. He was threading balls through there with command. I think you have to give him credit for being good with the football in this game, and Kyle Shanahan was happy about that. Do you think Wishnowsky intentionally does not kick touchbacks or just isn't capable? Well, Mitch Wishnowsky kicked 3 touchbacks today. So there might have been something wrong with him health-wise over the course of the past few games because he only had like 1 in 9 tries, and the 49ers started mixing Robbie Gould in. But 3 touchbacks today, including 1 to begin overtime, that was huge news for the 49ers. They needed the special teams unit to step up, and it did. And again, normally I don't talk about this kind of stuff, but I talked about it all week when it went wrong. So I'm certainly going to talk about it now when it went right because we can't take it for granted anymore. So 3 touchbacks for Wishnowsky today. And the 49ers needed every inch to win this game, and they got it. Why does Jimmy G hesitant to get out of the pocket and extend plays? Well, we know Jimmy Garoppolo's limitations. He's not your prototypical mobile quarterback, right? He's not as quick. He doesn't have the physical skill set that even somebody like Joe Burrow has that can move around a little bit better than him. So Garoppolo is going to stay in the pocket more often than he bails the pocket. That's just the physical reality of the situation. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo's strength is that he can hang in there longer because he's got a quicker release than all these guys. And he's able to get that ball out even when he's getting drilled, which allows guys to get open at the last second to get it downfield. So that's just Jimmy Garoppolo's style. That's what the 49ers are living with. Shanahan would love to develop Trey Lance to be able to get away probably from some of these rushers, but not to an extreme degree. He still wants a quarterback that delivers from the pocket. But obviously, he likes something about Trey Lance, and the big difference between him and Garoppolo is the mobility to where maybe that style changes. But that style doesn't change until Trey Lance is ready to play in these games. And right now, Garoppolo is the 49ers' best option. And as the 49ers' best option, his style is hanging in that pocket and using that quick release after the defense gets suckered in to whatever formation they're bringing. So that blitz comes in, the receiver gets open at the last second, Garoppolo can hang on to it for that extra split second to get him the ball. We saw that happen several times today. So I don't think Garoppolo's hesitant to get out of the pocket. I think it's just not his style to get out of the pocket. He's a pocket QB, and if he's holding on to the football, not throwing interceptions, the 49ers are efficient and they almost always win. I know it's sexy to run all the time these days, but I think it's sexier to win. And Garoppolo wins a lot. And he wins a lot because he generally is able to post a performance that's efficient enough to overcome however many mistakes he makes. And that was certainly the case in this game against the Bengals. Yeah, the pocket was collapsing quickly today. I mean, the pass protection isn't good for the 49ers, and that's why Jimmy Garoppolo is undervalued in a lot that he does. He threw 41 times today behind a line that wasn't doing a good job protecting him against the, I think, very aggressive, good Bengals pass rush. I mean, you're dealing with Hendrickson, who got hurt. I think that was a big deal. You're dealing with Sam Hubbard at the other end and DJ Reader and those guys, Okunjobi in the middle. Those are all good pass rushers. I mean, this was a good Cincinnati front that the 49ers had to deal with today. I don't know what's up with Gould. I know that he is getting older, but today was alarming because he had made 21 straight game-winning or game-tying field goals at the gun. Today he missed. It's the first time that Robbie Gould missed a kick at the gun that could have won the 49ers a game. I mean, he'd been clutch in those situations. As much as you want to talk about some of the accuracy issues that he's had, especially linked to injuries over the course of the years. He never missed in a situation like today's, and he did today. The problem is that Robbie Gould has guaranteed money here for the next couple of years. So 49ers really want him to succeed, even though he just turned 39 years old. Might not have been a good idea to give him guaranteed money, but now the 49ers have to live with it. And we'll see how the rest of the season goes. Entering this game, Golden made 84% of his field goals, which was the same rate as last year. I mean, his career rate's like 85. So 84%, 85, it was good. But the fact he missed today, it's got to sting. It's got to sting because you want him to, at the very least, make those big kicks. Is the 49ers better road versus home record just a fluke or something that will benefit them in the playoffs? Well, I mean, I think it's – I don't think that the sample size is big enough. I know that they've really struggled over the last year at home, and they finally recently have started winning again at home, right? They beat the Rams and they beat the Vikings. So they've won their most recent 2 games at home. I think as the sample size gets bigger, that evens out. But the good news is they have been winning on the road, which bodes well for their playoff chances because they're going to go on the road for the playoffs. They're not catching the Cardinals. It's going to have to be 3 wins on the road. So this is something that benefits them in the playoffs, but I don't think that you should look at it as road versus home record. Just say they have success on the road. They'll get that success at home, and it has to come next week against the Falcons, right? But the road success is what's going to be potentially valuable in January. No, if Trey Lance is playing today, the 49ers don't win. That was an eminently impressive performance from Garoppolo down the stretch. One reason you saw Lance against Arizona. Nothing that happened in that game surprised me. He had to run a lot. He wasn't ready to deliver from the pocket. And I think that given time, he will be ready to deliver from the pocket. Nobody in their right mind thought that was going to happen this year. The 49ers have been really clear about it. I don't know how else to put this as far as the Trey Lance situation goes. He's learning behind the scenes. Jimmy Garoppolo is playing well in the forefront, and as long as that keeps on happening, Shanahan's A-okay with the status quo right now. He wanted to mix Trey Lance in, but it proved overwhelming for his play calling, so he hasn't mixed Trey Lance in. Kyle Shanahan will say, sorry, I'm not sorry about that. But for now, big picture, Garoppolo's been plus efficient in 6 of 7 games. He's been good in 6 of 7 games. Just don't be a prisoner of the moment. It's tough because everybody acts like Jimmy Garoppolo's performance against Seattle was the same performance that he delivered in the 5 weeks prior to that, but it wasn't. He was good in 5 straight weeks. Then he was bad against Seattle through 2 picks. Now he's good again against the Bengals. And good Garoppolo versus bad Garoppolo, the delineation usually lies in how well he protects the football. So today he didn't turn it over. So you saw good Garoppolo. When he turns it over, it tends to be bad Garoppolo. And that's just how the efficiency shakes out. Turnovers, giveaways are extremely, extremely damaging. All right. I'm going to make a ton of videos tomorrow. I wanted to get one up there. I've talked for 43 minutes or so. I'm going to be in Cincinnati all day tomorrow, so we're going to talk about specific stuff. I'll have some more organized talking points. Hopefully this just got us started with the analysis of this game. I mean, Garoppolo delivered when it mattered, right? So he disproved a lot of narratives tonight, and it's going to be fun to see how this riveting roller coaster ride continues moving forward. D'Amico Ryans did what he had to do on defense. The 49ers special teams, I mean, he called those blitzes perfectly with K'Wan Williams, and Nick Bosa was the one that, star players show up and at times when you really need them. 49ers special teams saw a game in the plus category today, really an inverse that you can't even make that up, and that helped them win it. It was a heck of a game. It really was. What a game for the 49ers. We'll go through everything tomorrow, I promise. If you have any video suggestions, put them in the comments section. Make sure you subscribe. We'll talk to everybody soon. 49ers beat the Bengals 26-23. It's 2 a.m. on the East Coast. I think it's time for me to go rest. All right, everybody take care.